just doing a 2-minute review on increasing and decreasing. If you had to walk from left to right on this graph, do you get there would be some parts that would be kind of steep? You'd be going uphill. That's called increasing. Do you get there's one little section where it'd be pretty easy? You'd be going downhill. The way you would describe that is that the x values where it's decreasing are going between two things. Would you please write down what you think it is? It's decreasing between, well, there's only two x values. In fact, why don't I just cross off the y values? You will never use them. When you're doing this, when you're doing increasing and decreasing intervals, you will never use the y value. Well, that makes it pretty easy. There's only a 4 and a 6 left. There you go, 4 to 6. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. Now, it's increasing sometimes. Would you agree it's going up sometimes? Would you focus on this part of the graph? Remember, it's only the x values. I already crossed off the y values, so you can't even mess that up. But you got to know it's 6 to something. You're not just going to make up a number. Would you please put what you think the increasing interval is for that? Teo, what do you say?
6 to infinity.
Yep. So if you're struggling for that, just put an infinity here and a negative infinity over here, because these are the x values that you would ever use. You're only using x values. And so sometimes you use infinities for these. So this increasing here would have been from 6 to infinity. Wait, there was another increasing interval, wasn't there? Yeah, it's an area over which your height would be increasing off the ground, or it's hard to walk, so you're increasing your altitude. It's that other increasing interval. I'm talking about this area, right? So duh, there's a 4 involved, right? So then, if I peek over here, I see a negative infinity. So it's like I'm going from here to here, from negative infinity to 4. Who had that one right? Raise your hand if you did. All right. So here's another one that's a lot like that. You do not need to copy the chart. All I'm going to ask you to do is write INC and DEC. Okay? So don't copy this. Just tell me. You're climbing this mountain from left to right. Is it increasing sometimes? Yeah, it's increasing. Because you're going up, 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 up. And then it stops right there. And I'll tell you that point. That's going to be 3, 1. And then the rest of the way, it's decreasing. So right, increasing, decreasing. Remember how I said you're going to use x values? You might want to write these in, negative infinity, positive infinity, because you'd use them this time. It was increasing from here to there. And that's from negative infinity until you get to the x values only, 3. Negative infinity to 3. Now you got to stop thinking about brackets on these. It's only ever parentheses and comma. All right? And then decreasing goes from 3 to infinity. It's all right. You got to come back with me. All right. So that's increasing, decreasing. Now your next part. A ball in a football game gets kicked. Do you agree that the ball goes up? Do you agree it doesn't keep going up forever? It eventually slows down and then reaches its highest, and then it starts coming back down again. So this is called a punt. Okay, well, it can be a punt anyway. I'm going to make it a punt in a football game. Do you know that an awesome punt, if you're a really good punter, you can make it hang up there for 5 seconds? That's like unbelievably good. No high school player ever is going to do a 5-second hang time punt. Okay, so would you agree? If I said 4 seconds, that might be pretty hard to keep the ball up there for 4 seconds, but you might be able to believe 4 seconds. All right, then that line that runs right down the middle there, do you get that that's when the ball, right there at the top, right here, the ball went to its very highest at 2 seconds. Would that make sense to you? All right, if I said it was 2 feet off the ground, would you say that's ridiculously low? I think it's ridiculously low. I think it could be like 60 feet off the ground. Pretty high up because it has to go really high up to stay up there for that long. All right, so there, then this is the typical test question about this. Can you tell me the math name for this? And what the 2 and the 60 mean? There's a math name for that point. And what does 260 mean? Is there 2 chickens? What do you think? What's the math name? This one's called the vertex. That's what I meant. That point is called the vertex. And did you say maximum? It's also a maximum. You're not wrong. That's a maximum point. Yep. But the math name for the dot, that dot is a vertex. All right. So vertex and maximum, I think they're both good answers. But what is the 2? It's like 2 inches? No, that doesn't make sense. Is it 2 feet off the ground? That doesn't make sense. Yes? 2 is the axis of symmetry. You are correct. X equals 2. Remember, the axis of symmetry has to have an x equals. All right. So what is the 2, though, about the football? 2 seconds. 2 seconds. At 2 seconds, what happened? The 60 happened. What's the 60? 60 feet off the ground. That's the height. All right. So this is a parabola, except it's got real world context, it's called. Hey, can I help? Hold on just a second. Okay, so next question that could be asked from the test would be, what is that in the context of the football story? Ending. Okay, that's not a bad thought, but what about the football? Minimum? Nope. What? Say it louder. Hit the ground or hit the floor. Yes, that is true, but you need a little more. Because there's a number there. Let's say that number is 4. It is an x-intercept, that is true. Can't argue with that, but that's not a football term. Somebody said hit the floor. You need a little more. Time that hit the floor. There you go. See, it's time. It's the time it hit the floor. 4 hours later, it hit the floor. That wouldn't make any sense. What is it probably? 4 seconds. Okay, hold on. Okay, so the things you'd have to answer are, what are the math words and what do they mean? So like, you knew this is a vertex. Somebody said maximum and they were right. X-intercept, they were right. Time it hit the ground was the really hard part. Okay, so I'm going to do another one with a marker. You get at home, you're not going to be able to see this, but here, you guys can watch this. This marker here, actually, I'm going to do the red die. This red dice, it's pretty big. See it? I'm going to toss it up. It's going to make a parabola. it's gonna start off the ground, it's gonna go up, and it's gonna come back down. Okay, so, ready? And that made a parabola. If you saw it, it reached its highest height at some point, I'm gonna say about a half a second. I'd say it went about 2 meters off the ground at its highest. When I released it, it was probably only a half a meter off the ground. This is its height. And this is the time. This would be about 1 second to hit the ground. Now, it is probably quicker than that, but I want nice numbers. So, if I asked you about that die that I just tossed across the room, you want to call it a dice, you can, but technically that's plural. It's a die when there's only one of them. What's that? What's that? These are actual test questions. Write down everything you know about that spot. There's 2 names for it for math, but then you got to say something about the die. And there's 2 math names for this. There's mostly just one, but the one, and then I don't want to say it, but what happened at that second? At 1 second, something happened. So write down the math names for it and what it means. All right, did you know this is a vertex? Could you also put maximum? Yeah, that's okay. I was looking for that one, but it would be true. All right, next. If they said 0.5 comma 2, would you be able to tell me what the heck that is? Half of a second. And 2 meters. I think I said the height was in meters. So this was how high the die was at about a half a second. It was 2 meters off the ground. Zariah, what is this spot? Try to be as accurate as you can, because if you leave out some stuff, you can't get full credit on the test. The time the die hit the ground, you are correct. If you just say hit the ground, you're not telling me what the 1 is. 1 hit the ground? That doesn't make sense. 1 is the time it hit the ground. All right. Moving on. You need to understand one last thing. If I tell you the vertex, you know a ton of stuff. If I told you that's the vertex, then you'd know the graph either goes up or down from there. If I told you it was a minimum, then you'd be like, oh, it has to look like that. So the vertex is very powerful. If I tell you this is 3 comma 7, you automatically from the vertex, you know like 3 things. 1, you know the highest it ever, the lowest it ever went. You could answer, what is the equation for this in vertex form? Which would be, by the way, x minus 3 squared minus 7. Could you have written that? Now that you see what I mean, could you have written that? All right. And you are correct, Asen. There's a mistake in it. What is it? It should be plus 7. Good catch. Because it went 3 to the right and it went up 7 to make that spot. Okay. I could also tell you the axis of symmetry from knowing just the vertex. What's the axis of symmetry? It's that. X equals 3. It's that. The axis of symmetry is the x of the vertex. All right, so I'm going to give you another vertex. Here you go. It's right there. It's at negative 2 comma 1. Can you tell me the equation for it? Well, you'd have to know that it's an upside down parabola, though. You never did an upside down one. Well, the only difference is you have a negative. That's it. Write me the equation for it. Remington, give me your best shot. I gotta come back to you. Copy this down. Catch up to that, or at least. Remington, copy what's on the board. Get back in the game. Mosman, if I started with an X, you tell me what goes next? No. There's something right here. Int, it's part of the vertex. Okay, I think I better go a little further. It's X, and then there's like, let's say the vertex was 7 comma 10. It would look like this, but the vertex isn't 7 comma 10. So what is the vertex? Come on, what's the vertex? I'm gonna throw in you softballs here. What's the vertex? Yeah, negative 2 comma 1. So what numbers do you think I'm gonna put in there? And that's really close, but we don't trust the inside. Dessa? Positive 2. One last thing is missing. Yes. Very good, because it's upside down. Remember how it's upside down? It's like a U. It's up like a mountain shape. It has a maximum. Remember this guy's name is Max. Put that back in your pocket. All right. So I'm going to give you one more vertex. Let's see if you can do this. The vertex this time is 2 comma 3. You can put your own dot. It's a U shape, normal U shape, hasn't been flipped over. What's the equation for it? All I can ask is that you try. Trying does involve writing. Neverman. Y equals. Does it have a negative in front?
No.
I'll give you a hint. I said it was a normal U shape. So no, it doesn't have a negative, okay? What does it have in there?
No. Oh. Negative x equals negative 2.
X equals negative 2?
No, x minus.
Okay. So now, try telling me the whole equation now.
Y equals x minus 2 squared plus 3.
There you go. Okay. Now, one more thing. If I give you an equation, it's got to be just the easiest thing of all to just look at that and go, what's the vertex? You should be able to do this like in half a second. Asen, what's the vertex? -8, -1. Good. Then the next easiest thing should be, what's the axis of symmetry? Hint, it's the axis of symmetry. Damien, what's the axis of symmetry? X equals a number. Come on, you could just don't. Oh, nobody is like with me today. What is the axis of symmetry? It's the axis of symmetry. It's x equals a number. You want to try it now? -8. It's the x of the vertex. All right. So, even if, I want to make sure you get this, even if there was a 7 in front, it wouldn't at all change the vertex. And it wouldn't at all change the axis of symmetry. All right. Even if there was a -7 in front. If I even put a negative right there, it still wouldn't change the vertex, and it still wouldn't change the axis of symmetry. You just grab this number and stick it there. All right, that was surprisingly bad. So we're going to try one more. Negative parentheses x plus 5 squared minus 7. What's the vertex? What's the axis of symmetry? Write them down, please. Your hand hasn't moved since I gave you the problem. And now you're not with me. Don't expect you all to be math geniuses, but I expect you to be with me and trying. That's all I can ask. Staring at the board is not trying. All right, the vertex is, so easy to make this mistake. Dylan Cole, what's wrong with 5, -7?
Make it positive.
Yeah. This is a positive 5. It should be of a -7. Negative. Sorry, -5. -5, comma -7. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. Now the axis of symmetry. Hint, it's the axis of symmetry. Check. You can't just say -5. There you go. That's all right. Okay, good. Now, what's the A term? Now, a lot of you are going to be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. How about this? What's the stretch factor or the scale factor? I heard somebody mumble -1, and you were right. That right there, there is a 1 there. It's not just a negative, it's a -1. And -1 would be the stretch factor or the scale factor. And it's also the A value. So this number is really important because it's the A. Okay. Ever heard of A, B, and C? I know you have. Because x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There's A, B, and C. And they're here. 2x squared plus 4x plus 1. That's A. That's B. And that's C. Does those ring a bell? You remember hearing about A, B, and C? Okay. So when I ask you the A value, it's just the number that's in front. So what's the A value of this? 2. Now, we're going to give you... Oh, wait. Is this a maximal? No, because it doesn't have a little negative in front. So this one would have a minimum. Now, the vertex is... Think about this. A parabola has a zillion points on it. I don't know if you know this. It has infinite, literally infinite points on it. You could keep making points forever. It's got unlimited points. It's only got one vertex. Only got one very special point, which is the very, very peak. And it also tells you the axis of symmetry runs right through that. Do you get how the vertex is a really, really big deal? So the reason that we care about the vertex so much is it tells us the range. It tells us the axis of symmetry. It tells us how to put it into vertex form. If I knew this number, I could make vertex form of the equation, like y equals x minus 4. If it's 4 comma 4, then I could do this. I'd know how to write that equation if I just knew the vertex. So finding the vertex is huge. So that's the last thing I got to teach you, is how do I take an equation like this and find the vertex from it? It's not just as easy as like, it's this number and this number. Nope. It's not those two numbers. Nope. The vertex needs a little formula. So everybody please copy down this 2x squared plus 4x plus 1. Copy what is on the board. You too. Everyone. Okay, so that is my equation, and I'm going to try to tell you how to find the vertex for it, but you'll need a special equation. You don't even have to write it down because we're going to give it to you on the test. But you need to know how to use this little thing. It's way easier than the quadratic formula, but you may notice the quadratic formula starts with x equals negative b. Well, that's how this starts too. But you get to skip all the crap underneath the square root. It just jumps right to the ending, which is all over 2a. And that little formula tells you the vertex. Well, at least it tells you the x of the vertex. All right, so if you're going to be given this formula on the test, here's how you'd use it. You would go and grab b. Oh, I don't know where b is. Think about it for a second. B's right there. And a, which is right there. And I got to stick them into this formula. Yes?
You bring the 2 on the top, so like that 2x.
2x. The a is just the number 2. The b is just the number 4. It is not the x's. Okay, so negative b over 2a. Have I taught you this yet, that a b is like an empty parenthesis waiting for a number to go stick in there? And the a is like an empty parenthesis just waiting for you to put a number in there? So there's my formula with a nice little empty spot ready to go. Now I'm going to drop in, that was b, right? And b is here, and b is 4, over 2a, and a is 2. See, that's the a spot. And now I'm just going to recap the x. X equals negative 4 divided by 4. I know that one's 4, right? Negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. Cool. I just figured out the x of the vertex. And that's also the axis of symmetry. Remember the axis of symmetry? All right, so x equals negative 1 is your axis of symmetry. Pay attention now. This is the moment where the people who want A's or B's in this class have to get one last thing. And that is, if I wanted the vertex, I already know that the x is negative 1. A lot of kids will get lost here, but see if you can do it. Can you stick that negative 1 some logical place to figure out what y equals? Hint, y equals. Because this is the vertex, negative 1 comma something. I bet Asen knows where to put that negative 1. Do you know where to put that negative 1? In the x, yes. She put a negative 1 right there and right there. And now I just have to multiply it all out. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And that's negative 4. 2 plus negative 4 makes negative 2. Negative 2 plus the 1 makes negative 1. Negative 1, negative 1. That's the vertex. So what's the process again? You use x equals negative b over 2a. It'll be printed on the top of your test. We'll give you that. You just got to stick in the b and the a, and you get negative 1 for the x. This number here, most kids can do this. They can stick these numbers in and get that. But a lot of kids won't know what to do next. They'll know that it's negative 1 for the x, and that's the axis of symmetry. At least they get that point. But if you want the full credit, you got to now figure out this point. You take this, you stick it in the equation, and figure out what y has to be. All right, now I've explained it. That'll be enough, if you're really good at math, for you to be able to just get it right now. Everybody write this down, please. Y equals x squared plus 4x plus 1. Now, it will be given to you on the test, but somebody in here has even got a good enough memory to tell me that little formula. What is it again? Negative b over 2a. Good. Now, on your ACT test, that formula will not be given to you. The ACT doesn't give you any formula sheet. The SAT does. And the Minnesota MCA test does. But the ACT does not. So you'd have to just have this memorized. Don't use your phone. All right. Negative b 2a. Safa, what's A? Yep, there's a 1 right there. Very good. What's B, Teo?
-4.
Yes, because it's negative B, so it's -4. Now I've got -4 over 2 times 1 is 2, and then I can divide that. That's -2. I'm going to recopy from the beginning. X equals -2. X equals -2. That's the axis of symmetry. All of you can do that. You can all stick those numbers in and get the X. But that's the axis of symmetry. It's not the vertex. So what are you going to do to define the vertex? It's -2 comma something. Take a second. Figure it out. I'm going to pause. This is like 2 more minutes left of class. Give it your best shot. Stick that -2 in the right spot. It says right here x is -2. What am I supposed to do with that now?
Plug it back in.
Good. Walk me through it. -2 squared.
4.
Yep. 4 times -2.
-8.
Good. Now I got 4, and I got -8, and I got +1 at the end. You put that all together. I'll give you a hint. 4 minus 8 is -4.
Oh, am I supposed to? Oh, -3.
-3 is correct. There you go. -2, -3. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Cool. Those are my future A students on this test. If you didn't get it yet, and you want to keep trying, I'd be happy to show you how to do it. But you need that -b over 2a part to get this. Then you need to stick it in the function to get that part. All right. So let's start the Schoology quiz together. Everybody open up the Schoology quiz. The first question is insultingly easy. There's only one Schoology quiz in today's folder. Find it. Open it. Get a free answer. Dylan Cole, would you read me number 1?
F of x equals x plus 4.
I heard the beginning and the end. Can you tell me the middle again? F of x equals what?
X minus 5 squared. Parentheses.
-4 like that?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. And the first question is just what's the vertex? Kilner, what's the vertex? 5, -4. Notice she did not use this exactly. She didn't trust it, and she put in +5. Good. That's it. First question, insultingly easy. If they had asked you for the axis of symmetry, it would have been x equals 5. Remember, it's the x right there. They did not, though. So, Remington, number 2.
-1 comma
What? Are you giving me the answer or are you reading me the question?
Oh,
Just read me the question. f of x equals,
f of x equals -2 parentheses x plus 1 squared plus 3.
thank you. And then they just want the vertex again?
Yeah.
Oh, super simple. Like you said, -1, comma 3. Cool. Okay, Damien, number 3. The first time where we're going to have to use negative b over 2a. Negative x squared, I think I heard. Then plus 10x minus 3. Thank you. And then want the vertex again? Okay. So this one's not in vertex form, so you can't just go like, oh, here it is. This one takes a second. So, who's got a short-term memory and knows the formula? Yes.
-2b
Wait. Negative b over
over 2a.
2a. Good. And now we can start putting in the numbers. What's negative b? And remember, it comes up later that sometimes this number is negative. So really, you should call this opposite of b. It's the opposite of whatever b is. So what's b in this case? 10. So what's opposite b? Negative 10. It was positive 10, so I'm putting in negative 10. It's negative b. You do the opposite of whatever b is. Okay, over 2a. 2 times what's a? What's 10 divided by 2? If I had a calculator, I could go negative 10 divided by negative 2, and I would get 5. Raise your hand if you already knew 5. Okay, good. So 5 is the x of the vertex, but I don't know the y yet. So it's 5 comma something. Now you take the 5 and you go back and put it here and here. And I think you get 30 something when you're all done. I'm 99% sure it's 30 something. And it's negative, I think. So I think it comes out to like negative 39 or something like that. Then they're going to ask you to write it in vertex form. I'm going to imagine that it's negative 39. I'm not positive, but whatever this comes out to after you put in 5. What is it? 19? Negative 32. Anybody verify negative 32? All right. We're going to make up a number. I'm going to say that it's 30. Let's imagine it's 30. Because you have to do your own math here. You got to have a calculator and do this out yourself. You can handle that much. So let's imagine that it's 30. Then, if I was going to get my final answer for vertex form, here's what screws people up. This problem has a negative on the front of it. So you got to remember to put that in your vertex form. Do you get how it would have been really easy to forget that negative? It's got a negative in the front. So we got to put a negative in the front. Okay? And then it's x minus 5. And then I'm making up this 30. You figure out what it is. But that's how you'd write vertex form of it. Don't forget the negative in the front. And the answer's not really 30. You figure out what that really is. Okay. Now, if you get stuck, you can come up and ask me for help. If you want to just, you get a calculator, use parentheses. If I do this whole thing, I'm just doing your homework. And that's all I got for you for now. And that is the last of the new material. So good news. From here, we just have to review for a couple days, and the test is Tuesday.